That's what they do for our youth. We have to start targeting and gearing, celebrating those journeys. Those are the wrong journeys to celebrate, young men. There's no reward for coming home after 30 years. You don't get no care package or failure. Get your out here and help these kids. Pay that back forward. You see what I'm saying? That's the reward. I got time, come straight home. If I don't do what they want me to do for them, I'm a sellout. I'm a suck nigga.
Something just dropped in the Harlem and hip-hop streets that has everyone talking. Yes, a clip from Jim Jones' podcast has gone viral, and it has created an iconic moment. And guess what? Mike Epps did not hold back. His response was straight fire. The internet went wild. Fans are reacting, memes are spreading, and the comments section is exploding. People are asking, did Jim Jones' clip really ruin Mike Epps' image? And Mike's reply, wow, it's so shocking that it feels like you're witnessing the drama unfold live in Harlem itself. If you want to understand why Jim Jones' clip is trending everywhere, and how Mike Epps clapped back so hard, then stick with this video till the end. We're breaking it down step by step, all the reactions, tweets, and fan responses included. And make no mistake, this isn't just gossip. This is real celebrity drama, real controversy, and real reactions all rolled into one explosive moment. So grab your popcorn, get comfortable, and watch how Mike Epps shook Harlem and social media with his response to Jim Jones' podcast clip. Trust me, moments like this don't happen every day, and you do not want to miss this. It was a city evening like any other, with neon lights painting the streets in hues of electric blue and crimson. The air was thick with the familiar sounds of the metropolis honking cars, distant laughter, and the hum of everyday life. But beneath the ordinary rhythm, a storm was quietly brewing, one that would ripple across every corner of the urban landscape. In a small, dimly lit studio tucked away from the main streets, voices were bouncing off the walls. Laughter mingled with casual conversation, and for a moment, everything seemed normal. Then a single statement was spoken. It was casual, unassuming, yet it carried a weight that neither the speaker nor anyone in the room fully understood. Like a spark striking dry wood, it had the power to ignite something far larger than its size suggested. Within moments, the clip containing the statement leaked. It was barely over a minute long, yet it traveled faster than any rumor could have. Phones buzzed, notifications lit up screens, and every social feed was suddenly alive with fragments of the audio. People dissected each word, paused every phrase, and analyzed the tone as if hidden messages were embedded in the syllables. Some laughed, some were shocked, some felt a surge of curiosity they couldn't ignore. Outside the studio, the city itself seemed to respond. Conversations at street corners, in cafes, and even inside subway cars shifted. Everyone had caught a glimpse of the clip or heard whispers of it. Rumors began to swirl, each retelling, amplifying the drama. What had been a casual statement had become a catalyst, sparking debates, opinions, and speculation. It has ignited the streets, the internet, and every place where stories live and breathe. Meanwhile, someone who had always stayed in the background observing the rhythm of the streets suddenly found themselves at the center of attention. Their eyes scanned messages, trending hashtags, and public reactions. The buzz wasn't just online. It felt alive, palpable, like the city itself was holding its breath, waiting for the next move. The tension was tangible, crawling along the walls, whispering through the streets, and resonating in every corner where people gathered. Inside the studio, the person who had spoken the words replayed the clip again. This time, they felt the magnitude of what had been released. A single sentence had turned into a whirlwind, dissected by thousands, debated, mocked, and reshared. Social media exploded with memes, debates, and arguments, each iteration adding fuel to the fire. Every new share felt like another heartbeat of the growing storm. Then came the subtle signs of unrest. Messages arrived quietly, indirect yet urgent, hinting at the bubbling tension beneath the surface. Friends, associates, and observers reached out not with anger, but with caution and curiosity. Everyone seemed to sense the approaching storm. Yet none could predict its full force or trajectory. As night deepened, the city felt different. The usual hum of nightlife was now intertwined with whispers and discussions about the clip. The event had transformed from a simple statement into a spark, capable of igniting the entire urban landscape. The studio, once the epicenter of casual chatter, now felt small and fragile in contrast to the roaring buzz outside. Meanwhile, the shadows of the city, someone prepared to respond. Not in anger, but with intention. A calculated, powerful move that would reclaim the narrative, shift the energy, and command attention. The streets and the digital world were ready. And they knew something was coming, something that would change the course of the evening. The conversation, and perhaps even the streets themselves by midnight. The city had been transformed. Conversations everywhere referenced the clip. It was no longer just a snippet, it had become a phenomenon, capturing the curiosity, excitement, and anticipation of everyone who witnessed it. Screens glowed in windows, hands scrolled endlessly, and whispers filled every room. People were asking what happens next. Who will respond? How far will this go? The evening that had started like any other had shifted into the first act of a story that promised tension, drama, and unforgettable reactions. Every frame of the clip, every inflection of the voice, and every subtle expression had become a point of discussion. And somewhere in a quiet corner, a figure prepared for the next move, aware that the streets, the feeds, and the whispers would all be watching. It was the beginning of something larger than anyone could anticipate, a tale of suspense, reactions, and the raw power of words. A storm had begun, and nothing in the city would ever feel quite the same again. The city woke up the next day, still buzzing from the previous night's events. Screens across neighborhoods were alive with the clip, replayed over and over, dissected in conversations, chats, and comment threads. What started as a simple statement had now transformed into a storm no one could ignore. Every person seemed to carry a piece of the story, debating its meaning, questioning motives, and predicting what might happen next in cafes and corner stores. Groups gathered around glowing phones, watching the short clip that had taken over the internet. Some laughed at the audacity of it, others shook their heads in disbelief, while a few whispered conspiratorially, imagining what would unfold in the hours to come. It was no longer just a piece of audio. It had become a cultural spark, igniting discussions that ranged from the serious to the absurd. Meanwhile, the individual who had unintentionally set off this chain reaction was carefully watching the fallout. Notifications pinged relentlessly, each one a ripple from the wave the clip had unleashed. Their hearts raced not with fear, but with anticipation. The city's pulse, amplified by online reactions, was now in their hands. Every like, share, and comment seemed like a call to action, a nudge that demanded a response. And respond they did. Slowly at first, carefully crafting each word, each gesture, ensuring that the reply would carry weight. But the moment the response hit the feeds, the city exploded again. The reaction was electric. People paused mid-step, staring at screens, eyes wide with astonishment. The careful balance of curiosity and tension had tipped into full-blown fascination. Everyone had an opinion, and everyone was talking. Rumors began to swirl faster than ever. Every corner of the city carried fragments of interpretation, some accurate, others wildly speculative. Yet each one added to the heat, fueling a frenzy that no one could contain. What had begun as a private statement had now become public property, a story retold by thousands in a million different ways. And with each retelling, the narrative grew sharper, more intense, more impossible to ignore. As the hours passed, the tension in the streets mirrored the tension online. A subtle unease had begun to take hold, as if the city itself was holding its breath. Every glance between strangers, every passing comment, carried a hint of the drama. The clip had sparked more than curiosity. It had sparked an emotional undercurrent, a mixture of awe, excitement, and a touch of fear. The person at the center of the storm knew that the situation was now delicate. A misstep could escalate the chaos, but the right move could seize control of the narrative entirely. They studied reactions, anticipating moves before they were made. Carefully navigating the complex web of online discussions, whispers in the streets, and subtle shifts in public opinion. Every detail mattered. Every response was scrutinized. Then came the first challenge. Unexpected voices began to emerge, adding new layers to the story. Different perspectives clashed, fueling debates that spread like wildfire. Some defended the original statement, some condemned it, and others added twists of their own, creating a dynamic where the line between reality and interpretation blurred. The city had become a theater, person, a spectator, and participant in equal measure. Tensions reached a tipping point as the reaction intensified. Groups formed, conversations grew heated, and even casual observers felt compelled to weigh in. The clip had become a catalyst, revealing hidden passions, unspoken rivalries, and the raw energy of a community hungry for drama. It wasn't just a moment anymore, it was a movement of anticipation. A shared experience connecting strangers through the electricity of curiosity and suspense. Amidst the chaos, the central figure prepared the next phase. Their strategy was deliberate, precise, designed to not only respond, but to elevate the tension. Each word, each gesture was chosen to maximize impact. The streets, the feeds, and the endless chatter would all be watching, waiting for the climax of this unfolding story. By evening, the city was ablaze with speculation. Every newsfeed, every conversation carried fragments of the incident, the clip, and the unfolding response. It was no longer just a moment in time. It had become a living, breathing phenomenon, one that grew more powerful with each passing hour. And somewhere, quietly observing the storm they had created, the figure knew the real test was about to begin, the point where anticipation would meet reality, and the outcome of the story would be decided. The night fell heavy, electric with expectation. The clip had set the stage, the reaction had built the tension, and the next moves promised to shake the city and the feeds alike. Everyone was watching, everyone was waiting, and everyone was holding their breath. What began as a simple statement had now evolved into a story of suspense, drama, and conflict that would keep people talking long after the lights of the city dimmed. This was the second act of the tale, the storm of reactions, the rising conflict, and the city gripped by the power of words and anticipation. And as the night deepened, one thing was certain: no one in the city would forget this day. And the next chapter promised even more intensity, revelations, and the kind of suspense that keeps hearts racing and eyes glued to screens. The city was alive with anticipation. Every street corner, every cafe, every glowing screen in a window seemed to hum with the weight of the unfolding story. The clip had already set the world abuzz, and the reaction had transformed the ordinary into extraordinary. But now, the moment everyone had been waiting for was arriving. The response that would define the saga and shift the narrative forever. In a quiet room away from the chaos, the central figure prepared meticulously. Every gesture, every word, and every nuance was planned to maximize impact. There was no room for error. The energy in the city felt almost tangible, a current running through the streets, charging the air with tension and excitement. People sensed that this was the turning point, the climax where anticipation would collide with reality. Then it happened. The response went live. Immediate reactions flooded in. The streets seemed to vibrate with conversation. Phones buzzed incessantly, notifications piled up, and social feeds exploded with activity. Memes, reactions, and commentary multiplied faster than anyone could track. Every eye was fixed on the unfolding drama, person waiting to see how the story would resolve. The city, which had been caught in the grip of speculation, suddenly felt electric. People stopped to watch, listen, and engage. Conversations slowed as everyone tried to process what they were witnessing. The response was precise, impactful, and yet delivered with a calm authority that demanded attention. It was not just a rebuttal, it was a statement. A reclaiming of space in the narrative. A way to steer the storm toward clarity and purpose. As the minutes ticked by, the effect became clear. The frenzy of speculation began to stabilize. While the city continued to buzz, pattern emerged. The initial chaos had given way to understanding, and the central figure had successfully shifted control of the story. Observers and commentators began piecing together the events, each adding context, each weaving the narrative into something more coherent, yet still charged with drama. The streets gradually returned to their rhythm, though now every glance, every conversation carried traces of the story that had captivated them. People spoke in hushed tones about the events, sharing reactions, insights, and even humor. The storm had passed, but the resonance lingered like an echo that would be remembered in stories, memes, and retellings for days to come. Meanwhile, the central figure stepped back, observing the impact of their response. What had begun as a single statement in a small studio had become a citywide moment of tension, drama, and revelation. They had navigated the storm, managed reactions, and ultimately steered the narrative with skill and precision. The city had witnessed not just a reaction, but a lesson in timing, influence, and control of perception. By the end of the night, the story had fully come together. The clip, the reactions, and the response formed a complete arc and narrative that began with a spark, escalated into tension, and resolved with a decisive move. People reflected, shared, and analyzed, but the core drama had been addressed. The narrative, while still lively in discussion, had reached closure, and yet the city knew that stories like this never truly end. They linger, influence the culture, and leave a mark on the collective consciousness. Even as life returned to normal, the memory of the event this sparks, the reactions, the climactic response remained vivid. The streets, the screens, and the conversations were subtly changed, carrying the imprint of a moment when a few words had rippled through a community with unstoppable force. As dawn approached, the city exhaled. People resumed their routines, though glances at screens and whispers in conversations reminded them that they had been part of something larger. A story had unfolded that was both captivating and instructive, a reminder of the power of words, the intensity of reaction, and the thrill of suspense. And in that quiet moment, far from the bustling streets and buzzing feeds, the central figure smiled faintly. The storm had passed, but they knew the echo of this story would persist. They had witnessed the full arc of drama, the spark, the tension, and the resolution. They had steered it to its peak and emerged not just unscathed, but in command of the narrative. It was a tale that would be remembered, retold, and analyzed. A story of anticipation, conflict, and ultimate resolution, a story that began with a clip, surged with reaction, and concluded with clarity. And as the city awoke fully to a new day, the echoes of the night's drama continued to pulse quietly, a testament to the power of words and the grip of suspense. The story had reached its conclusion, yet it left behind a city forever changed, a community that had experienced the tension, drama, and resolution together, bound by a narrative that had captivated every corner, every screen, and every mind. All right, fam, that was insane, right? If you thought this story was wild, trust me, the conversation is just getting started. Now it's your turn to weigh in. What do you think about the events that unfolded? Were the moves calculated, or did chaos just take over? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now. We want to know every reaction, every theory, and yes, even your wildest guesses. And don't just stop there. If you enjoyed watching this unfold, hit that like button and show some love. Every like helps us bring more of these exclusive drama-filled stories straight to you. Share this video with your crew, your friends, your family, anyone who loves a good story full of suspense, drama, and jaw-dropping moments. Let's see who has the best reaction and who saw this coming from a mile away. Oh, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next because of these stories. They don't just stop here. The next chapter is about to get even crazier, and we're taking you right into the heart of the drama before anyone else. So comment, like, share, and subscribe. Be part of the conversation. Be part of this story. And remember, the streets are watching, the feeds are buzzing, and the drama never sleeps. Are you ready for the next level? Let's go. Ready for the next level? Let's go.